Omar Colomb. Did I say your name right?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Tech Forward podcast.
Yes.
Thanks for coming all the way up from Miami.
Thanks
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
So what's new? What's going on with you?
Nothing much. Just here hanging out with you today. Doing my thing.
So tell me about yourself. How'd you get your start in the live events industry?
So my start is birth.
Birth? You got birthed into it?
I got birthed into it.
You're the first one.
I was the first one. Yeah. My dad owns an AV company in South Florida, so from the time I came out the womb, I was there.
So you were entitled to this industry from day one.
I can't say. I won't say entitled, but yes.
Destined. You were destined for this industry.
Word. Yeah,
okay.
Destined is
That's
a better
good.
word.
You're
yeah.
right.
So it grew up all around me. My uncle does this, my brother does this, my dad does this. It's a family thing.
So as a kid growing up in this, like, what's your first memory of AV? Like, did your dad talk about it at the dinner table? Did he take you to the office? Did he show you technology? Like, my son always points out projectors.
Yeah.
He loves projectors. So what were you like? What was your first piece of technology?
No,
that you
projectors.
latched onto?
I mean, I'm a video engineer, so projectors. Yeah, no. My dad would always come back with like trinkets and souvenirs and gifts from different shows and like
stories.
Come
back from Infocom or something.
Yeah, and just stories like, oh, I went here and I checked this out, I did this, I did that, and I'd see like the photos he would take. I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. Like, I'm thinking he's doing parties and stuff, and then I got older. Right. You're doing corporate stuff, okay. But and then going to the office, seeing my family and hanging out with him at the office and seeing, Mac movers, and my dad fixes stuff too. So it was like seeing the guts of all. Like to this day, I still think the inside of our projectors are gorgeous. I know it sounds weird, but I love looking.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on inside there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Same thing with lights and movers. Like the inside of those, all the motors and gears and stuff inside. Like that's totally intriguing to me.
All right, so you grew up in the industry.
Yeah.
So at what point did you say to yourself, all right, this is the path I'm going to go in?
So in high school, I have dyslexia. So in high school, my parents separate, and I stayed with my dad. And my dad was literally an hour walk or a 10-minute drive from my school. And in that school, they had a TV production class and a theater class.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, I took those all 4 years. And my last 2 years, the teachers were so comfortable with me, they let me lead the classes. Not lead them exactly as a teacher, but like for the tech side of it. So every Friday, I had a new station out. Every 3 months, we had a theater play going on. And I would spend hours and hours after school doing rehearsals for theater, doing edits for the Western News Network is what we called it.
Okay.
And I learned to use Final Cut there, and learned how to do all that stuff. So that was kind of like my, hey, my family does this, I'm getting good at this. And I'd ask my dad, hey, I need to do this theater thing. I need some sound noise. Can I borrow some mic? Oh yeah, here's the mic thing, and here's a crown, and here's how you use these, and here's how you do the board. And it's like, oh, cool. And then, my uncle would come over there, hey, okay, let me help you program the board. Let me show you what's going on. I'm like, oh. So then I learned that way too, which was really fun at the time. And that's kind of how I got I got more into it, I guess, with my dad, because I was like, oh shit, this is really cool. Like, I can do more with this. And then, in high school, he's like, hey, you want to come on a show with me? And I started doing little things here, mainly pipe and drape. So,
that's where you got to start.
Yeah, that's where you start. Yeah, pipe and drape.
Right.
My dad says like, you got to work your way up. I'm like, all right, so pipe and drape. But I got to see the setup, see the clients, meet people.
So in high school, you got to do a little bit of production.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it's funny because we had similar paths. Because my high school, I remember in 9th grade, we got our TV studio put in, and it was like Panasonic SVHS decks and like the little recorder camera. And they're like, "Who's that kid that volunteers at the public access station? Like, get him to do it."
Yep,
so
I was literally the same kid.
They literally gave it to me, and they're like, "You do it." And it's basically me and my friends just having fun for 90 minutes and learning how to edit. But at that point, I never heard of live events. Obviously, my father, he was a chemist. He wasn't in this industry, but I never heard of it before.
Gotcha.
Like, nobody talked about it. So I have to assume, on your side of the fence, like when you're in those classes in high school, is anybody talking about live events?
No.
So if your dad wasn't in this, you'd have no idea.
I'd have no idea. And what's funny is, so when I worked for my father, I did 3 years, and I got to the point where he's like, hey, if you want to move up, you should go get a degree. And I was like, well, do I really need that? And he's like, no, but you should go get one. So I went to school. I was going to do 4 years. I ended up doing 2 because the entire program didn't teach. And it was for digital broadcast. I literally did one class for E&G.
Okay.
And the class I did I was so frustrated with it, and it was the reason why I stopped going, or I ended up doing my 2 years. I learned how to run an E&G camera in one show with the camera operator. It took the school 3 months to teach me the same things that one person taught me in 4 days.
Right.
And I was like, yo, this is ridiculous. And then I did one class for actual broadcast switching, in an actual studio that the school had, an actual switcher and all that. Never took the gear apart, never put it together, never ran any cables, just literally switched buttons here and there and took tests on random stuff like camera shots and things that had nothing to do with what I thought needed to be taught. And I remember, like, I'm going to school, I'm working in this industry with my father, And my main concern is signal flow and building and taking apart the stuff, as accurately as possible, so that we're not backtracking on this cable's not run correctly or this cable's bad, and like just figuring out issues. This school wasn't teaching me any of that stuff. It was teaching me how to be an operator, and I can't think of a single person who just left school and was, oh yeah, here's $40 an hour or whatever. You're gonna operate this board for us on this live show. Like that doesn't happen.
I went from high school. I did not go to college.
Okay.
And I'm proud of that fact, by the way. But so I got out of high school, started in a small AV company up in Michigan.
Okay.
And the way I taught myself is whenever it was slow, I would just read manuals. So I'd see the guys like setting up a Barco 808, and it looked like the most complicated thing in the world to me. So I'd sit there and I'd read the Barco 808 manual, and I would learn how to do it. And like over 3 or 4 days, I'm like, it's not so hard.
Right.
Like it's not easy, but it's just following the steps.
It's following the steps.
And all you have to do to learn is just have access to the gear, have a good attitude, and read the manuals. And then from there, ask questions.
Yep. And Barco has, I don't know if they had it when that product was out. So I started on the Barco.
This was the CRT. So this was red, green, blue.
Well, so did they have the quick guides? Barco's phenomenal.
They had a quick guide? I don't know. I just remember it was about this thick, and I would just started like thumbing.
So I remember I would always go to quick guide first, and that'd be how I get my SOP, my standard operating procedure, to like start up and running. And then once I got past that, okay, now I know how to start it up and get it up to speed. I want to learn more about the nitty gritty of it. I'd read the manuals. But the quick guides were always like, oh, fine. That's the first thing I want to look at is a quick guide, because I want to see how to real fast, like what they tell me I need to do for it, how I should start it up, how I should do this and that. And the Barco always had the, power on, factory reset. It was like step always the same. Step 1, power on. Step 2, factory reset. And I was like, okay, so that for me till this day now, I factory reset everything, because I want to be at a baseline where I know what's going on. Now what the last guy did or something else.
Because he probably screwed it up. So just start from scratch, start over, and then
so what the baseline is, because you're coming in thinking that. You're thinking, oh, this is going to be this and this and that. And it could be a million things that guy did to that switcher that you don't even know about unless you went in the menus and found it.
Right.
Or knew what he was doing on the previous show. So I always factory reset. And I learned everything on Barcos. I was a Barco house when I started. Projectors, switchers, everything.
Me too. It was Barco 808s and the 9200 light cannon, which I think light cannon is the most badass name for a piece of gear ever. And I was with the Barco guys last week at ISC, and I was like, guys, can you please bring back the light cannon? They're like, why? I'm like, it's the most Belgium name I've ever heard in my life. And they almost took offense to it. They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, just think about it. It's just, like Light Viking. Like, it's just a cool name. But anyway, going backwards. So you get out of high school, do a little bit of stint in college.
I left high school.
Take me through it.
So I left high school. Had a rough family situation, joined the military for 6 years, so kind of got away from all of that. I feel like I needed structure in my life at that time. Okay. I'm very preppy now. I was very gothic back in the day.
Okay. All right.
Very
Love
into
to see
rock
those
and roll
pictures.
Stuff. Yeah. I had Vegeta haircut, so just imagine that. Like
black
out.
Fingernails, the whole nine.
No, I didn't do the.
Okay.
I was never into the nails part, but I had the long hair. I had the black clothes, the Jinko pants, and the Spencer stuff, and all that craziness. But anyways, so I joined the military to get structure in my life. My dad supported it, my mom didn't, so that was an issue. But I joined at 17. Did what's called split ops. So did National Guard for a year. At 17, went back to high school, finished that. Went back to AIT, and then did 2 tours, went active duty, all that good stuff. When I got back out, I kind of was lost in myself. I didn't know what to do with anything. I was suffering from PTSD and night terrors and stuff like that. And I was seeing a psychiatrist, and my dad said, hey, why don't you come back and work for me, because you were doing this when you was a kid. Like, why don't I
give you a non-stressful job?
Yeah. So he put me in the warehouse, and I just, again, you got to work your way up. Even though I was, I was his son, he's like, you got to work your way up. So I started off in the frou department doing pipe and drape, doing screens, doing carpentry stuff. Okay. And then I moved slowly into the video side.
Now, what do you feel like having done military? And I've always felt like I've never been in the military, but I always feel like being in the Army and being in live events, it's very similar. Right. It's not quite as stressful, and you're not being shot at.
Yeah.
And then there's the Army, so we'll talk about the Army. But I do feel like those two industries are the same.
Right.
Band of brothers, you're working hard, you have to be organized.
Yes.
You always have this itch to be out there in the battlefield,
yes.
and it's something that can give you PTSD if you don't know how to handle it. So when you're in the military for 6 years and then you come into live events market, did you feel that there were a lot of similarities? Did you feel like your experience in the military is helping you now?
Yes.
And can you expand upon that?
So real quick, just on the military, and not to boost anything here, I was infantry, and then I went recon, and then sniper. And a lot of the things when you get specialized are very similar to the guys in this industry that get specialized in their departments, audio, video, lighting. There's a lot of structures that correlate exactly to the military does. FM 21-1, if you ever read that, you probably won't, but you can Google it. That manual is all about the structures and procedures that we use. Literally, the verbiage is different, but I mean, for example, for the video department, which is what I know the best, right? Let's say you're on a bigger show and you have a switcher guy, a media server operator, playback operator, graphics operator. That's 4 positions right there. That's a team right there. That's one team. Then you have an audio department with 4 people or more. That's another team. Right? That's 2 people, or that's 2 teams. Once you get 4 teams, you have a unit, and that's all military right there. And you're all working together. You're all in your little island. You work together, and you're proficient. The goal is, right, and this is why each show is different, because we're not always working together. But the goal is that team together can accomplish the task for the client or the show.
And everybody's working from different angles.
From different angles
towards
a common goal, right? Which is 100% what the military does. And what's really cool is that in our industry, we all kind of, once you get up to that upper echelon, you all kind of cross-train each other a little bit here, a little bit there, so that you can be more helpful on show site. So you're not just in your own little silo. Like, hey, I just do graphics. I don't know anything else. You know, which doesn't always happen, but most of the times that's how it goes down. And those people are able to help you out, set your stuff up. And it's the same thing in the military. If I have a 4-man team, you know, I got a shooter, I got a saw guy, I got a medic, hopefully, and I have you know, my backup guy. That whole team needs to work together to accomplish a mission. Independently, though, they need to be experts at what they're doing. They need to qualify with their weapons. Same thing.
Okay. So when you're working for your dad's company, would you look at that more as basic training? And is that something like in the AV industry as it evolves? Is there more of a need for basic training where people can come in and learn fundamentals about our industry, and then from there they can make a decision on, okay, I want to go into projection, or I want to go into image processing?
I think the best, and I say this because this is my experience, I think the best route is to go into a company, start from the ground up, and figure out that path you want to take. You know, work for VR, work for anybody. Work for a company, go in there, and you know, sorry, what I want to use. Work your way up pretty much until you find that department you want to be in, and then specialize in that.
Well, cut your teeth. You can work for an in-house company. You can work in a warehouse, and just basically ask.
I say work in a warehouse, honestly, because I did the most of the warehouse stuff, and most of that stuff translates amazingly to the field.
And you have access to the gear, which is important.
You have access to the gear, which is important. Yeah, and if you work in a warehouse right now and you're listening to this, I guarantee you ask your boss if you can stay after hours to work on stuff, they're not going to say no to you. If they trust you to be there without them, they're going to say, yeah, no problem. And you take out that piece of gear.
Well, it's funny. It shines. Like when I was a kid and I was like, I would idolize these guys that would come in from shows, you know, back when I was 18.
Right.
And I was like, I just want to be one of those guys. I want to hang out with them. Yep. I want to go out on show site with them. So I started reading the manuals, and then they take notice. They're like, what's this guy doing? And then all of a, you know, a few weeks later, they're like, hey, would you like to come out and do a gig with us?
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, it's all attitude. You know, then they want to see, okay, can this guy work the long hours? Can he take the stress? Can he work good under pressure?
Right.
And if you can do those things, the technical skills don't mean anything. Yep. Those will come with time. What you need is like, okay, is this person built for this? It's like a chef.
Yeah.
Not everybody can be a chef.
Correct.
You have to work long hours. You're going to get cut. You're going to get burned.
Yes.
It's not for everybody, but the people that do it work really hard and they love it. And I feel like our industry is the same way.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that people are missing constantly, is that you can learn all the things you want, but if you're not a good person to hang around with, if you're not someone that's enjoyable to be with, no one's gonna want to hire you. You could be the best at what you do. If you work like an asshole,
right,
they're not gonna hire you again. If you're rude to the clients, if you're rude to your coworkers, if you show up late all the time, if you're not reliable, they're not gonna hang out with you.
But that's where a good crew helps you out too, because if you were that way in a good crew, they would help self-correct that, right?
Correct.
Or that wouldn't be stood for.
Well, to an extent, right? Because there's always that one guy that's like, hey, he's really good at what he does, and he's specialized on that one piece of gear, so some of it gets put up. But I think over time, though, those guys just end up fading out,
right?
Constantly. I meet more guys who are just like hanging out with they're not the best at what they do, but they're great to hang out with, and they bust their ass to get shit done, and they're always reliable when I need them. So it's like, yeah, that guy may not be the best at that, but I know he's going to be here. I know he's going to do what I need to do. I know he's going to help me out if I need it, and vice versa. I'm going to help him out because I know he needs it.
Right.
I think that's the main thing that people are not seeing in this industry, is that you can be you can do all the classes you want, do all the meetings you want, do all the reading you want. If you're not just a good person in general, no one's going to want to work with you.
It must be interesting kind of being, because you do a lot of freelance work still, right? So you're not privy to always working with the same crew.
Correct.
So you might have a crew guys or gals that you work with that it's tight, everything's great, but then now you're flying across country and you're doing a show with a bunch of people that you've never met before. Yep. And it's like sometimes you never know what gear you're going to get, and you never know what people that you're going to get. But a good engineer, a good a leader on show site can be like, okay, I'm going to make all this work. Yeah. I'm going to figure out everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and I'm going to pull it all together. Do you have to? Is there a lot of times you have to take a box of broken toys and make it work? Does that happen quite often?
Constantly. And I think and that's where getting back to military, I think that helps me out a lot too, because I was a staff sergeant in the military. So those skills that I learned from there help me identify those issues with people real quickly and say, hey, he's going to need a little extra help. Let's have him shadow me. Or, hey, this guy's not as good as this. Or, even just gear, like, you don't always get the same gear. You don't always get the same quality of gear. And that's another issue. And it's being able to be competent enough to know, hey, I was using this same switcher last time, but it was not in this condition, and now, one of these ports might not be working, or whatever the case is.
Right.
And company knowing that, what, let me get this guy to help me run this out or to troubleshoot this with me because I know he needs the extra help. And then the other thing too is, I'm the first to slow myself down if I see a guy struggling, and if I just teach him, now I know the next time I see this guy, if I ever see him again, when I worked on the Miami market, I did that all the time with anybody I met. I would always teach screens. Screens was like I don't know why people don't know how to build screens at this point, but everybody needs to learn how to build screens. I would always teach guys how to build screens so that I knew next time that I saw them, they'd be like, hey, I know you know how to build screens. Go.
Well, it's kind of like the pipe and drape part. It's the thing that just nobody really wants to do.
Right.
It's a little bit more manual labor.
But if you teach somebody, they learn it, and then the next time they go out with them, they're learning it, so their skill gets better. The next time they see them, oh, hey, this guy helped me. He taught me this or taught me that, or whatever the case is, and then you can move forward. I feel like a lot of these guys are missing that nowadays. I'm not sure. But
well, how long have you been doing this for?
So I've been doing this officially 12 years, unofficially longer, but officially on paper 12 years.
Okay, and then what was your first gig?
Our first gig when I was like 16 with my dad doing literally just pipe and drape.
What about your first real gig? Like your first freelance real gig? What was that like?
I was still doing pipe and drape.
You're still doing pipe and drape? When did you do your last pipe and drape gig?
I haven't touched pipe and drape in years.
That's good.
Unless you count tech drape, because I want to.
Sometimes you got to put the tech drape up.
You got to put the tech drape up, yeah. But no, I haven't pipe and drape up for years.
So how'd you settle on video?
So for me, video was the most challenging, and not to bash any other department. I feel audio's. I mean, there's a plethora of knowledge everywhere you go. Like, there's so many audio guys. This market's saturated with that, and it's an XLR. Your signal flow is very limited, unless you're doing, one of the bigger brands. We're using LF4 and stuff like that. Then it gets a little more complicated. But majority of what you're doing is XLR. It's very simple.
Well, what I always look at is if you look at lighting and audio, both great professions, but most of that crew that works on lighting and audio walks away. So you typically have an A1 and an A2, or an LD and an ME on a really big show. Right. And then video, you might have 6-8 positions if you count camera operators and everybody in that mix. So there's a lot more opportunities for employment on the video side.
Definitely, that's a good point. I never saw it that way. I just saw it as the hardest. For me, lighting was simple. Lighting was just too heavy. I don't want to lift heavy lights all day. I don't want to lift truss all day. It was just heavy.
I guess it just depends on what level you want to do it. I mean, you can obviously do easy video, and then there's video that's extremely complex. There's all different sizes of shows.
I've just jumping on that, I've learned every department, including media servers. I've gone to Spider training, Ascenders. I've done the E2 training. I've done both of those with you guys, Spider in Georgia. But yeah, video was the most challenging department, and I felt like I wanted to be challenged in this industry, and that was kind of why I went that route.
Okay.
And the projectors were the coolest things. It's like, okay, I want to learn how to do the blends and the convergence and all that cool stuff, and I want to really fine tune this. And I was all around a bunch of old school guys like, hey, you can't do warping, you got to do it old school. You got to learn signal flow so you can, do these runs, and you got to know the limitations of these cables. And it's like, oh shit, there's a lot more to learn in this.
So your projection's kind of your thing. Is that what you're most passionate about?
Projection and media servers are my thing. Yeah.
So I ask this question because I've heard this many times, like, oh, projector's dying. Projection's dying. And here on the Evolve side, like, we don't see it. We see more and more demand for projection.
I see projection. I think LEDs are getting close in comparison with pricing wise. What I'm seeing now is that the guys like me and others who have been doing this long enough now, we're much quicker at it, and it's what's keeping it alive. As well as all these new lasers that are coming out now, it's definitely changing. I think lasers are changing the game on an epic scale, because you can even get a 5K laser now, and it's night and day from what it was 5 years ago.
Well, I just got back. I was in ISE, which is kind of the European version of Infocom,
right?
And I saw it's a new projector from Panasonic. It's called the RQ35.
Okay.
And the RQ35 is a 30,000 lumen 3-chip projector that's the same size as the RQ22 / RZ21. So
So smaller frame.
Smaller frame. And I saw that projector, and I was like, you know what? This is what's going to keep projection alive. Projection was kind of stuck at a box this big is 20,000 lumens, and that's all it's going to be. And a box this big is 30,000 lumens. Now projection has evolved, and it's laser based, so you don't have this light dropout. Like it's always going to be 20, 30,000 lumens.
Right.
And the technology is advancing, so you have projectors now pushing 50,000 lumens, possibly 60 to 80,000 lumens, and that's brightness that can compete with LED. And it's hard for me to not be biased because I do like projection more than I do LED on all fronts. But I've seen a lot of LED where I'm like, okay, I understand why people are choosing LED. But then I see projection, I'm like, okay, now I understand why projection is still in there, because you can do things with projection that you can't do with LED. Like you can do things that are creative. You can do projection mapping. You can use it in creative ways. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I'm assuming you're kind of the millennial generation, and I'm more on the 32. I'm 40, so I'm on the Gen X side. Is a lot of people are talking about immersive environments, and what I think about it a lot of times is like in the next 10 years, if in 10 years it's going to be primarily millennials that are going to be the ones coming into a live event setting, a meeting. Is this generation and the younger generations, are they going to want to come in and watch a PowerPoint presentation all day, or are you going to have to come in and say, look, I'm going to compete with your phone, right? I'm going to entertain you. I'm going to give you an immersive environment. I'm going to give you a reason to be here. Is that an opportunity for the live events industry to step up its game? Yes. And kind of take things to the next level? Because I feel like the status quo at some point is going to go away.
So I feel that projection as a medium, the way we use it now, is dying out. Not the projectors themselves. I feel like that. But what you're saying is where we're going with it. And I think that's becoming more and more prevalent, and LED walls are not able to keep up with that demand of what that is. Because, I mean, I've been seeing shows lately where, LED walls are the same. They're bigger, they give good colors, but you can do these projection mapping gigs that just give you these immersive environments that you can get into that the clients can walk around and they can interact with, and they can do more with it, and you can't do that with LED.
And there's way less points of failure.
Way less points of failure, yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing too with LEDs. It's Ethernet cable, and one cable goes wrong, the whole panel goes out.
It's a bunch of Christmas lights.
There's so many things with it. And laser projectors and projectors in general. I mean, even weight-wise too. Like Panasonic are a quarter of what the weight was. You look at a Barco Arlen W12, that thing's in comparison to a Panasonic 120. That thing's 20 times.
Well, it's changed. I mean, you look at an FLM 20K, and what a 20K weighs now, it's probably half the weight.
Half the weight, easily. For sure, easily. So they're getting lighter, they're getting easier. They have the cages that are way better now, and not just that one product. Multiple of them. But projectors are able to do more things that we're just not doing yet. That I think we're going to start getting into in the next couple 5 to 10 years.
I think the key is, you never overreact, because when a new technology comes out, or a technology like LED that used to be really expensive and then has gotten really cheap, clients are ultimately going to rental staging companies and saying, give me something different. And what a lot of them are doing is they're saying, well, we'll take these rectangle screens and replace them with rectangle LED. And that's working, but then eventually it's like, well, I need something different. Give me something that's more immersive. Give me something that calls out to my audience. And the pendulum always swings both ways, and it'll probably settle somewhere in the middle, and there'll be shows that can utilize LED, shows that can utilize projection, and then shows that can utilize a mix of the two. But my question to you would be, as a, if there was someone that was primarily doing projection, and obviously you have shows that are reoccurring, if you're seeing 50% of your clients saying, hey, this is going to be an LED show, do you look at retraining yourself, or you just let those go and then try to diversify and look for more projection-focused gigs? Like, do you stay projection, or do you say, all right, I need to learn how to use this technology?
So I'm on the ladder of I need to always be improving. So I've already learned Bromptons, I've learned Novastars, I've learned LED panels, I've learned how to build them, set them up. So I've already gotten myself into that realm, so that the more calls I get, I can take those calls. I still feel that projector, though, like we were saying earlier, doesn't get utilized to its full potential. And I think that as the scenic pieces get more elaborate and the sets get more elaborate, it'll come back more. So my skill set will still be there. But definitely LED walls, I've been learning a lot more about those the last 2 years. Just because of that same scenario where I'm getting those calls now. It's like, well, do I say no because I don't want to learn it, or do I learn it and just do what I can? And it's been the latter. I'm learning it so I can get on shows.
Well, it's interesting that you do media servers too, because what we want to do is educate our customers on media servers, because most see them as an expensive tool for only the largest shows. But I look at it as it's the tool of the modern live events company, because if shows are going to go from basically rectangle IMAG screens and basically large format televisions in a ballroom, and go to more immersive environments, now you're not. It's not a screen; it's more of an immersive environment. Now you have to wrangle all those pixels. So do you see the importance of a media server? Kind of like the light bulb for me clicked like 6 months ago. I'm like, oh, I finally understand what this does.
Gotcha.
And not only how it works to play back content, but also how it can be used to win business.
It's interesting you say it that way, because I've always viewed it as video finally catching up to lighting and audio. When you go to a show site, when you have just a regular switcher, you're lucky if you have an aux going out. Think about the 902s. That was just program out. That was it. Now you get upgrade to, let's say, a Hannibal or or any other switcher, and you might have an aux out. Those were us kind of getting up to that level where I can do what all the audio guys and the lighting guys have been doing for years. Yeah, I'll send whatever you want anywhere you need. Where video is like, unless you tell me that ahead of time, I cannot make it happen on the fly. Now with the media server, I can. I can take in whatever you want, and I can send out whatever you want and send it to wherever it needs to go, assuming I have enough inputs and outputs or IOs.
Right.
I feel like media servers are now at the point where we are catching up to audio and lighting and saying, hey, we can also do the same thing they do now. And I feel like there's also a lot of frustration with clients, is they're saying their audio guy and their lighting guy can send whatever they want anywhere on the fly for them based off of what they purchased. And video guys are always saying, oh, we can't do that because you didn't tell me ahead of time, or it's too late now, or I have to bring in this other piece of gear to do that, or I have to do this and that. Media server now, I'm able to play at that same level saying, yeah, what do you need? Where do you want it?
Right.
And I get the added benefit of saying, now I can play with my screen. So if I have a bigger screen, I can create multiple sizes, multiple shapes. I'm not limited to what my switcher is now. I'm limited to my imagination almost at this point.
That's to me is where the industry needs to go.
Yeah.
Is either you're going to go in one direction or the other.
Mm-hmm.
There'll always be room for meetings, but when you get to that tier 1 and you're doing the larger shows, it's got to be media servers have to be part of that equation.
I think
I'm not trying to sell media servers here. It's just when you look at what they can do, it's not just playback on show. It can be used as a sales tool. Here's your rendering. Here's your fly through. This is what your show is going to look like, all the way through the process.
Yeah. No,
so to me,
agree.
it's a really exciting technology. It's just we have to figure out a way to make it less taboo for people, because it is confusing. It confused me for a long time, and finally I'm like, okay, I'm a total advocate of this platform.
I just, for me, it's as from being on so many shows, myself, I feel like video, it has to go that direction. We can't keep using those single switchers, those single things, unless you're doing something with cameras to feed it to that. I mean, you can't.
And it's kind of fun, right? The technology's fun.
It's definitely fun.
It kind of gets your creative side going.
It gets your creative side going, and you're not limited to what that one box does anymore. Now you're able to do so many more things and be more creative with it, which again gets back to that immersive environment. That immersive environment becomes much easier when you have this media server to run it all.
Well, you got the keys to unlocking that. If the content's developed, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. All right, so you submitted some questions, so I'm just gonna because I think some of them are really good, so we'll go through them real quick. So this is one of my favorite questions to ask people is, are you a video engineer, or what is a video engineer? And what I tell people a lot of times is, you can either come in and learn a piece of technology. So let's say you come in and you learn how to run an E2, okay? You're an E2 operator,
right?
But on show site, you can't call yourself a video engineer. The only way, and this is my opinion, then I'll let you let me know if I'm right or wrong, or take this in any direction you want to go in. But if you're calling yourself a video engineer, it's kind of the way you might be able to call yourself a CEO. You can't call yourself a CEO unless you're running a business, inspiring people.
Gotcha.
You have a vision, but you can't just have 2 employees and say, hey, I'm a CEO. You have to earn that. And to be a video engineer, I feel you have to earn it. So my opinion of a video engineer is, if I'm in a position on a show, and let's use E2 since that's the most common video processor, I'm the E2 operator. I'm going to charge a high rate for that position, and I have to at least have some working knowledge of every position on that show, which means I'm not as good as my projectionist, but if my projectionist wasn't here and something happened, I could jump in there.
Yep.
I got a Tri-X cable that goes bad. I have enough engineering skills to fix that. I can strip an end. You can rotate to any position, troubleshoot, fix, jump in there, and not just be strapped into sitting in front of this box.
I agree with that.
If you want to bill yourself out as an operator only, that's fine. You can certainly do that, but I don't think that you should call yourself a video engineer. A video engineer is, I have a wide knowledge that I've earned over a long time, and I'm going to apply that. You're hiring me for my knowledge as a video engineer. What's your take on that?
So my take on it, so for me, it's a verbiage thing, right? Words have power. So, I feel that in the industry, legally or technically, not legally, let's say technically, we are video technicians. Unless you went to school and you got an engineering degree and you have a license to be an engineer, then you can call yourself a video engineer. But you also, like you're saying, have to be able to do all these other departments at ESC level. If you can only run the one system, I don't think you can call yourself a video engineer. You can call yourself an operator for that system, but you can't call yourself a V1 in my mind. And then back to the verbiage thing, I feel that people get stuck on the verbiage a little bit, but we are an industry where we're in a gray area because we do have to know engineering as part of our job to get what we need to get done. It's not just a technician. I'm not just an operator of that piece of gear. There's also other things going on involved. There's signal flow going on in the background. There's an understanding of data, bit rates, of resolutions, of how that's going down this HDMI cable, this SDI cable. There's a lot more knowledge going around. It's on the engineer level, but there's no schooling for that.
Right.
And I feel like the video engineer verbiage is just is a legacy from when this industry started 30, 40 years ago, when the guys went to broadcast engineering school and came in and left the TV studios to come into this industry. That verbiage stuck with them, and we just carry that on. We kind of grandfather ourselves into that. But the reality is you didn't go to school to become a broadcast engineer. You came into the industry and took operating classes, technical classes.
And that's interesting because like when I first started, I started way back in 98, right? And you're like, most of the gear that was used was broadcast gear. The beta decks, the production switchers that you'd have to physically time. You'd have to open this gear up to set it up. Even projection, you had to open the projection up to get up and running. You couldn't do everything by remote control. You had to physically get in there and engineer the box. So in a way, like broadcast engineering skills and engineering skills are important, and that term has been grandfathered in.
Correct.
But I guess my question would be, if you are the V1, you're in the leadership role of video on site. Is there a better name for it?
Yes.
Or is it just V1? Hey, you're the V1.
Yeah, see that's the debate right there. Is what would be a better name for it? And I don't know, because I do see that as a gray area.
Can we comment below on better names for video engineer? I'd love to hear it. We'll nominate someone. Because I feel you could change the industry.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it. To me, is where we fall in that gray area where we have to be both an engineer and a technician. So you are an operator, but you also are an engineer. If you're at that level, there are people that they only know one piece of gear or they barely know it, and they operate that one thing. But yeah, for me, a V1 has to be able to run. He has to be an ESC level person to call himself a V1. To be a video engineer on a site, he should be able to say, hey, this is what I'm running here. But if anything else happens, I can jump on and fix it or get it running or figure out what the problem is, or real quickly on just my box tell you, hey, I'm not getting the right thing. Let me program my EDID, or hey, that I'm missing colors on that. Color space is wrong, or your cable's bad.
You know what role I always thought should be more adapted to live events? I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I'm a big proponent of it. Is what? In the broadcast world, they have what is known as an EIC, engineer in charge. And basically, okay, you've got your E2 op and your media server op and all your ops.
Right.
And they're able to focus on their vertical.
Yep.
And then you have an EIC that basically worked with the rental staging company. They signed off on all the gear, all the sub-rental items. They did all the cable counts. They've reviewed the drawings. They're there to help load in. They're there to help with the setup, answer any questions, solve any problems. So if there's an issue, you can stay in your seat. I'll troubleshoot it. You're missing something, I'll get on the phone. And then once the show's happening, I'm sitting at a desk in front of my laptop, and I'm there just in case anything is going wrong. And it's similar to a pilot. Once the plane's up in the air, okay, it's a hard job, but we're in autopilot now, and if there's turbulence, I'm here for you. And I think on the larger shows, an EIC is the perfect position, but I think it's something that's really rare or something that isn't really talked about. But I did a truck gig, or a few truck gigs years ago, and I remember I would work with the EIC was the guy or gal. Like that was a person that you went to with all the questions. They dealt with all the stress, and once the TV broadcast was going, they were the ones sitting in their easy chair next to the truck, just watching the broadcast in case anything goes wrong. And that's the calmest part of their job.
So I definitely get hired for that position a lot. So that is coming back.
Let's bring that back.
There is a need for that. I do get hired a lot for that position. I do a lot of most. I would not say most of it, but probably 60% of my traveling is just for that one position. And you said something to me that I feel doesn't happen a lot, and I feel like it should. When you're in that lead role, you are supporting your team. You're not there to sit back and relax once the show's going. You're there to support whatever your team needs. Any department, your job is to support that team and get them what they need so they can do their job efficiently. Right. And I feel like I've met other guys who the show starts and they're like, okay, you're on your own. If anything happens, let me know. And then they come in as like a reactive force instead of a proactive force. And that's, maybe that's why I get more calls for it. I don't know, but that's something that I'm very, very keen on. Even, when I work with anybody, it's like, hey, what can I get you? What can I make happen? Like, how can I help you? Because we're in this together, but I'm done with my stuff.
Well, if you think about it, on a really big show, if you are the V1 and you are operating the E2, right, and you're in rehearsals, and the chances of things going wrong are much greater, obviously, on a very large show, that's where you should have an EIC.
Yep.
Because you can't get out of your chair, and
Yeah.
now you're stressed out because you're like, oh God, how do I fix
gotta
this?
do this, I gotta run
And
over
now
there.
you're preoccupied,
Uh-huh.
where an EIC can just get up and start
Yeah.
tackling it. So anyway, more EICs, the better. I think.
No,
I think it's a
and
great
it's-
people. You know,
it
go
is.
go learn how to be an EIC and create the position in the industry because it's needed.
Yeah, and just real quick to jump on that, I think one of the problems we're having in the industry is that on the client side, the big house box office people are selling that but that guy is standing in the room supervising really, but he's being
Right.
sold as an ESC, and I think that's where that discouragement of that is on the client end, where because they see it on your side like, oh, why am I paying for this? You know, I paid this for these guys, and there was some guy standing there. It's like, well, no,
It's your insurance policy.
right. So it's like, I know when I do that gig a lot, I'm always running around mainly doing signal flow, but that position to me, yeah, is super important. That's a great topic you brought up because it needs to be brought up more. It needs to be done more in the industry.
So here's another before we run out of time.
Sorry.
No, this is a great conversation. This hour or 3 hours or however long we're going is flying by. But one of the things I want to ask you is, before we get into kind of AV Educate and what's going on with that one, is health and well-being.
Okay.
Because I talk about health and well-being a lot. You know, I'm a big proponent in health.
Yep.
I try to go to the gym every day. When I was a technician, I was the complete opposite. Very social, go out with the guys, beers, late
Yep.
at night, back in the hot seat at 6 a.m. Could easily do it in my 20s. At 40 years old, I don't know if I could do it.
Right.
And I often wonder, like, if I were to continue at the pace as I was from 20 to 32,
Mm-hmm.
what health condition would I be in now
Yeah.
if I didn't make lifestyle changes, eat healthy, exercise, all those things. But before I let you answer this question that I'm sure you know a lot about, it's really effing hard. I can't. It's hard for me to go to a freelancer and say, or technician and say, just work out, just do this, and it's
Right.
like, well, what do I do when the client is literally rolling in pizza backstage
Right.
at 8 o'clock at night, and I've been here since 6 a.m. and I'm here till 10 o'clock at night?
Oh, yeah.
When exactly am I supposed to go to the gym?
Right.
I think that's easier said than done, and I have a lot of respect for people that can actually be disciplined enough to like get up in the morning early or go to the gym really late.
Right.
So you're obviously
Thank
a
you,
busy
by the way.
freelancer, but how do you fit that into your schedule, and how can, like, what have you, first of all, what's the good, bad, and ugly that you've seen with
Okay.
technician friends that you've known?
Right.
And what advice to people out there could you give? What advice could you give to people to help with their health and well-being,
Right.
and overall just their ability to crush it for a long period of time in this industry, which you can either crush or it can crush you?
Oh, I like that. So last year, I won't mention names, but last year, one person very close to me died, and 3 others died that I'm aware of. That I knew who they were, but we weren't very close.
Same.
All health-related issues because of the stressful industry we're in. Some of the things that I do personally that help me, and I know people are gonna have their own opinions about it. I fast after shows, so if I go out of town for a big show and I'm getting fed by the hotel 3 meals a day, which most of the time is good food and it's fatty food and it's not healthy for you, I'll take a day to let my body just rest and kind of digest all that and kind of let my body detox. For me, when it comes to timing issues, if I'm not a big sleeper, so 6 hours, 5 hours is about all I need, and I'm up and going. I try to go to the gym if I can because of timing issues. I'll do a quick HIIT. It's called HIIT training. If you guys don't know what that is, look it up. Trust me, that 15-20 minutes of that, and you're gonna be good to go.
There's YouTube clips that you can use your
can
bed
literally-
in
yep.
your hotel room to do a 20-minute exercise.
Yeah.
Little things like
Just
that.
little things like that. So I do what's called Card PT, which I was posting about this month.
And while you're talking, can I pull up,
ahead, yeah.
Rich, if you want to go to the AV Educate page before we talk about it? I did see something. Where was it? You had something where it was like, here it is.
A deck card?
No, back pain relief. It was
Oh.
almost like yoga positions that you could use on
Yeah,
a chair,
so I
backstage.
I found these really cool guys who make these. I say quick guides for a lot of things, but like little illustrated guides, and they're chair workouts almost. So that we spend 10, 12 hours in a chair, 16 hours in a chair. These little things you can do in a chair real quick and knock them out. Again, back to the scenario. Hey, I'm stuck on a job all day. I've been working from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. whatever the scenario is. There's some little guides now that now you can just knock them out in your chair while you're sitting there.
Do you think it's important for AV companies, production companies, to make sure that the hotel is providing healthy food, to make sure that there are breaks for the crew where they can get out, stretch, walk?
Yes.
Do you think AV companies should indoctrinate health and well-being more? Because I feel like a lot of people go from show to show to show, but there aren't a lot of people that are saying, hey, you need to take a break, or
Right.
How are you doing? Because there's the health and well-being side, And there's also like, if you're just going through something, like if you
Right.
struggle with anxiety, depression, you're going through a divorce, something's happening in your life, and you can't stop that. You're on a train, you can't get off the train,
Right.
because that's how you make a living. You know, there's nobody that you can really talk to say, all right, this is what I like. It's almost like an AV therapist.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Like, I'm struggling right now.
Mhm.
I'm drowning in, you know, anxiety. I'm going from show to show. How do I break away? Like,
Right.
nobody's really talking about,
So-
nobody's talking about mental health and well-being
Mhm.
a lot. And I think one of the big issues is when you're in that band of brothers and you're working with that crew, it's hard to sit there and talk about, hey, I'm going through some stuff right now. I need some help. Like, it's just not something that's brought up in conversation very often. Or maybe you see something different.
Yeah, no,
you
that's
know?
that's just a tough one for me because I feel like that's on you to manage that scenario. And one that's on you to manage it, and two, you know, I'm all about seeking for help. I'm all about talking for stuff when I can to select people. You know, I'm not super open about my personal life, but if I have a real issue, I'll find a friend or a colleague or somebody who I can talk to about it and kind of, you know, get it off my chest and let it out to the universe and get it over with. You know, it was funny when you were saying that, I was thinking about, you know, myself in general. You know, I get lunch break sometimes. I'll grab my plate, take it to my desk, eat there because I still got to work on something to get it done.
Right.
You know, because I'm just like, man, I got to get this done. So I don't know. I feel like it's a tough subject because I don't know. I feel like it's on the person. Do you know? And I hate to say this, but do I have to baby that person who I'm hiring every time?
Yeah.
To work with me.
But you know, when you see people that are young dying,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to get all down,
No.
but I mean, like when you see people
Let's
that
go
are
there.
in their early 40s having heart attacks, it's
Mhm.
like obviously something has to be addressed for stress management.
Yeah.
Like, we're not meant to sit in chairs all day long.
I agree with that.
So it's like, all right, get your step counter. And be like, I have to walk 8,000 steps a day.
Right.
And whenever I have a break, I'll just do laps around the hotel or in the ballroom. It's like
Maybe-
little things like that help.
I don't know why. I don't know why I just thought it's maybe that's something you do then, like, as a TD's job. Hey, everybody get up for a few minutes, stretch out your legs, stretch out your arms, you know, do a lap around the ballroom real quick, just get your blood flowing, and then go back to your chair.
Right, because you're sitting in a plane, you're sitting in a chair, you're
Oh,
going
yeah,
back to your
sitting in a
hotel
plane,
room,
Jesus.
and a lot of times you're in a hotel for a week and you never really
Right.
get to leave. And then it would be one thing to be able to go home for a week,
Mm-hmm.
relax, you know, drink your green shake, go
Yeah.
to the gym and all that stuff, get it back on the
No,
protein
and-
diet.
yep.
But a lot of times it's like, all right, I'm going to the next city and I'm going to do it all over again.
Right. And that's why I do the card PT thing in my room real quick because I know those I can knock out real fast. It takes about 15, 20 minutes. I pick 4 random workouts. I just do them real quick. I get it done. I go about my day because I don't always have time to do that. And then I don't have any good advice for the plane rides other than that one post about some stretches you could do in the plane. I'm actually more into yoga than I actually am strength training. So I do a lot of yoga stuff. So I do a lot of stretching. Yeah, the planes are horrible. I mean,
Right.
you know, unless you got status, you can fly first class every time. You know, planes
But
are just bad.
But it is good, like long term. Okay, you have to make a plan and think, okay, I'm doing this in my 20s. This is where I need to
Mhm.
be. This is where, but you know, not just from a money standpoint, but just personal well-being, all
Right.
these things. Now I'm going to my 30s, my 40s, my 50s. What is that progression? What does my life look like through the industry? Because if you plan it out right, this industry will constantly reward
Right.
you. If you don't, it can easily suck you in. And
Yeah,
that's
so,
where
I mean-
everybody has to be careful.
Hustle in your 20s to 30s. 30s to 40s, you should build your empire or build or, you know, finalize yourself in your career. You know, you should always be moving up the ladder. If you're, you know, 10, 20 years as a stagehand, you know, you're hustling it. You might want
Yeah.
to start trying to get into lead roles so that you're not always killing yourself.
Well, in your 20s, people should think that you're broke all the time. So
Yeah.
20s, it's just save all your money, live with your parents. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're going to be on the road all the time,
Yeah.
drive a garbage car to get you
Yep.
back to the airport, back and forth. Live as low as you can. Keep your expenses as low as possible.
Yeah, your overhead.
And then figure out what you want to do. If you want to start a AV rental company or a live event production company, start buying gear, you know, with cash.
Yeah.
And then generate income. Go to the bank, take a loan out, and start growing your business, hiring people.
Right.
If you want to be a real estate mogul, start buying. You know, say,
Start
look,
buying
I'm
property.
gonna work for the next 20 years, and every 5 years I'm gonna buy a house.
Right.
And I'm gonna pay cash for it.
Mhm.
And then at the end of that 20 years, I'm gonna start, you know,
So
down
I'm
a
gonna start.
different
I
path.
need notes. You got a notepad?
What
in
is
here?
that? Here, you want to write that down?
I'm
But
already.
I mean,
I'm
there's-
already 10 years late here. But
but there's a lot of things that you can do. Like, and the other thing is like and one thing I wish I would have done back in the day is bought stock, because you sit
Oh, yeah.
backstage all the time and you hear all
Yes.
the information on what these publicly traded companies are doing, and you're just sitting there. So like, get into stocks
Mhm.
and use your money that you're you basically figure out a way to sit in the chair less and less. If you do it for a living, that's what you want to do.
Right.
Do it forever, fantastic. But if you want to figure out how to diversify, then start thinking a little bit long term. Okay, the next year I need to do this.
Right.
The next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, this is what I want to do.
Right.
Don't just do the same thing every
Yeah,
single week.
and
I think that's important.
Building your kit up, building what you use to go on show site. Building up your whole thing. Like you had the switcher you bought years ago, and that's how you started to move up. I think everybody should be doing that.
Screen Pro 2. There it is.
Pro 2,
Shout out to Screen Pro 2.
Everybody should be doing that. I mean, it's just common sense. You get to a point to where you can only make so much money, and then you add this piece of gear now that increases your value, and then you get called more for that because now you're a direct source for it.
Well, something that I've really been impressed with lately is I observe a lot of people on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I look at okay, the millennial generation these are the new technicians,
mm-hmm.
right? Like my age group, we're kind of in the middle. We're not
right.
quite the OG status yet, but we're kind of we're getting a little bit more gray hair. But what's interesting is I see a lot of people using social media to promote themselves, not just saying, hey, I need a gig next month.
Yes.
These are my dates available. It's here I am directing the show in
Correct.
Vegas. Here I am directing the show over
I'm
here.
big on that, yep.
And it's showing what people are doing, and they're using social media the same way people in other industries use social media. I'm seeing more podcasts,
yep.
people talking about this industry, getting excited about it. When I was doing this as a tech, none of that existed.
Right.
So now it's there's more of this community that's emerging.
Yes.
And that will lead the segue into kind of AV Educate and what you're doing with
yes.
that. So you've got a Facebook page called AV Educate. I've got it up on my computer now. What's it all about? Why'd you start it? And kind of what's the end goal?
So exactly what you were saying. So AV Educate, I started as a napkin idea that was to better it myself and my coworkers and friends, because I didn't have that resource growing up of where to go to get education to get better at this. It was either get mentored and trained on the job or read a manual. And there are so many more options out there, but there was no centralized place to do it. So AV Educate is that, or it's growing to be that centralized location where you can go to this, follow us, or follow AV Educate, not really us, follow AV Educate, and anybody who does any kind of training is going to be on there. And I'm posting on it, Chris is posting on it, a bunch of guys that are on this page post to that page. You guys are posting stuff on it.
Yeah.
And it's meant to, that's what it's meant for. Like, hey, I want to grow this as big as I can so that the new guy coming in, year one is going to say, hey, I just follow AV Educate, and every class I want to do, they just posted it on there.
And you know what? It's working towards where I would love to see the industry going, which is if you look at other professions. So
mm-hmm.
if you look at, there's these guys on YouTube, Casey Neistat.
Right.
Some of these bloggers that do Photoshop touch-ups and there's people that do reviews of cars, but they're extremely entertaining,
right.
extremely passionate. They have millions of viewers. But, if I wanted to start that type of channel and review cameras, like SLR
mm-hmm.
cameras, or talk about Photoshop, right. There's a lot of competition in that arena. And you have to be extremely entertaining right. to rise to the top. In our industry, it's still a wide open room.
Yeah.
So what I would urge people is get a camera, start blogging, start talking about your profession, the things you like, the things you
yep.
don't like, do a little confessional in your room.
Yes.
This is what I went through today. Start talking about new gear. Hey, I'm on this show site. I got this new projector I'm really excited
yep.
to use. And go Facebook Live. All the tools are there at your disposal. And there's no static. Nobody's doing it but a few people. Right. Now, I think that'll change over time. But right now, it's you guys are all the forefathers of this. So, that's content. What's the worst that can happen?
I'm trying to cultivate that right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get guys to do that because our industry is lacking that. And the manufacturers, when you look at the big picture, right, what they do for our industry is pennies for them.
Well, they don't understand our industry, and at the same time, the other issue is they're always going to talk favorable about their product. Mm-hmm. So if you as a top projectionist is hey, I just want to talk about this
right.
new Barco projector I used. It's awesome, and here let me take you through it. Let's walk around
yep.
it. Let me pop the top off this thing. Check this out.
Exactly.
You would be more of an influencer. So if you're saying something's good, that means 100 times more than if a manufacturer is saying something's good. And then when manufacturers see that, you're going to hashtag Barco
right.
on that or hashtag Panasonic, and then they're going to share that because they
yep.
know that's gold. That's marketing gold.
Right.
And now that builds their brand and it builds your brand.
Exactly. So it's a double win.
So it's we should almost train people how to do social media. I'm not the best at it.
Oh yeah.
But I think there's natural talent out there. But it's just saying, hey, I think the more people see others doing it, then it
Mhm.
inspires more to do it. I mean, you can go out for a couple $100 and buy a GoPro, throw a microphone on top of it, and start vlogging backstage. You can go live
Yep.
with your phone.
I mean, you can do it on your
All
phone,
the,
yeah.
Again, all the tools are there.
My podcast, I'll give it. My podcasts are done on a phone, on iPhone 11. I literally talk on it, publish it. I use GarageBand to do all that stuff. I'm not an audio guy. I'm not savvy about it, but it gets the job done. People listen to it. It gets out there. You know, the whole word, you know, thing of AV is exactly what you're saying. I want to provide that community so that guy who wants to do that stuff, who's willing to do it, I want to partner with him and say, hey, use the platform, bro. I have the people, I have the bodies. They want to learn. Use the platform. If you're motivated to do this, do it.
So you can search AV Educate on Facebook.
You can search AV on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. There's a webpage. I mean, everything is educational. It all leads to other guys to do the same thing I'm doing. If you go to the webpage, there's at least, I want to say 8 trainers on there that are in different fields between audio, video, lighting. That lead you to, if you want a list of expos to go to for this industry, go to the webpage. There's a list of expos. There's over a dozen expos you can go to. They're AV specific to corporate AV or installation. Go to the Facebook page. It's the most active. We have a unit section in there. You can self-train yourself on the unit section. You can go to the files section and download over 100 plus files that we have, ebooks, PDFs.
You're doing decimator training. I mean,
we're
little
doing
things like that.
Decimator training, yeah, little things like that. Yeah, so we did a post. It got some traction on it. We saw that
you know why you got traction on it? Because nobody's doing decimator training.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like, this new piece, and that's what's amazing is you get some new, record deck out on ShowSite. You might be the first one to use it. Mm-hmm. Now do a video. Hey, I just want to do a quick recap on this product.
Right.
I'm going to show you how it works. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Nobody's doing it. So just do it, right? I mean, that's what I think is exciting. All right, last 2 questions. All right, so what is your advice for a young, emerging, let's stick with the video side, video technician. What advice can you give to them on building their brand, standing out, and ultimately, shining on ShowSite and becoming, building up their own brand?
So the first thing when I say building up your brand would be,
because we're all brands, right?
We're all brands. That's,
you have to look at it that way.
Starting, obviously, like you said, social media is huge. You do that. That's your portfolio for life. Every show you do, when I like, for example, when I do my social media stuff, I tag myself where I'm at, I tag what I'm doing on that show, and I tag, hopefully if I'm with good engineers, I'll tag them as well with me. And anytime a client has a question about it, I say, yeah, I did this show right here, boom. I did this show over here, boom. I was using the E2 for this show. I was doing this for this show. I was doing this for this client. Like, they have an immediate feedback of saying, okay, he's done something similar to what I wanted. So get your social media game on point. Be very cautious of that. On the flip side, it can get you in trouble. So be cautious of what you are posting, when you're posting it, and how you're posting it.
Make sure the client's okay with it.
Correct.
If not, keep it very agnostic. Okay, here's the switcher. Don't show what's on the
screen.
Right,
don't show what's on the screen. Just show, hey, I was doing the switcher for a show. Be vague about it if you have to. I do tons of stuff like that too on my personal stuff. There's also tons of shows I don't even post because I'm not allowed to because it's an NDA. Incorporate yourself. Get your brand going. You don't have to pay a ton of money to get a logo or anything like that. Use your name. Use whatever you want.
Take those tax deductions and everything. It's all important.
Yeah, it's huge. That'd be another thing. And then read the manuals for whatever it is you're doing. Master any piece of gear you want. Just master it. And I promise you, from the basic switcher to a master, 2ME switcher. If you master one piece of gear, that knowledge will transfer to the next thing and transfer to the next thing. All the gear we use in this industry, all the different brands we use, they're all very similar. It's different verbiage and different positions of buttons, or it's in a menu somewhere else. But it does the exact same thing. So you master one of those and you learn everything that thing does inside and out, and get it down to a finite of what it is. You go to any other product, you're gonna still kill it.
And never stop learning.
Basically,
don't say, I learned this product.
Right.
I'm not going to go any deeper.
Read the manual, because everything has its pros and cons, and I can go into I'm sure you can too. We can go to a whole conversation about the 3 big boys for media service and how they have all their pros and cons and how they have different advantages and disadvantages of
they're
what
like
they
golf
can
clubs.
and can't do.
I mean, you can't use one club for everything.
You can't. And I know people hate when I say it, but read a manual. I mean, honestly, read the manual. The manuals give you so much information. Even with projectors, I read probably for every brand out there already, like at least the 5 big players. I've read all their manuals. They are super detailed with keystone, with color correction, with warping, with distortion, with blending, with convergence. So when I get asked questions like this, I'm like, you can literally read 3 of the top brand manufacturers and they'll tell you how to do blend. And they'll tell you how to do black balance and white balance for the blend. They'll tell you what the projector settings are for that. They'll tell you what kind of signal you want to see for it. It's in the manual. It's not like no one's hiding it from you. You just got to go look for it. And you might get experience on job site, and it's always 50-50 on that, because you're going to learn a lot of things from different people, and everybody has their own way to do it. And take what you want from it, get what you think is the best process for yourself, because that'll be part of your brand. How you tune a room is part of who your brand is. How you do video, how quick you do it, how proficient you do it, how long it takes to do it, how detailed you get into it, how you do your color balancing. That is part of your brand.
Well, because there's like little things, like just hitting the factory reset on a projector and setting it up.
Right.
Like you can kind of fake it. Okay, here people are going to look at it and say, okay, that looks okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you can get into the deeper layers, figure out how to do black balance and color correction and make it perfect,
right,
then it's like, this is what you're paying me the extra money for.
Exactly.
Is this level of,
right.
of a blend. Like it doesn't look like a blend.
And my thing is always not steer, but always try to do the top of, like, hey, I need to do all these steps to get it done. But if the client says, hey, it looks good the way it is, it looks good the way it is.
That's it. You're happy, I'm happy.
You're happy, I'm happy. Move on with life. Don't stress yourself out because
right.
you're not getting the exact best possible product of it, because you know what? The client's happy. That's it. That's
but
all
never
that matters.
stop learning. Never stop pursuing. Keep building your brand.
Yeah.
One of my tips is always don't be that guy at Yahoo or Google.com. Go out and give GoDaddy $10 a year and come up.
That's
if you want to
point.
be Omar Productions.
Yep.
Then it just looks a little bit more professional.
I agree.
Develop a business card. It's like those little minute details that kind of sets you apart from everybody else.
And if you don't have if you're not at that level yet, literally last name, first name, whatever your account is. And that looks way more professional than Joe Blow from down the street.
And don't forget the importance of LinkedIn. If you're putting that stuff on LinkedIn, people that don't know you will see it and say, God, this guy's work looks really good. Yep. I'm gonna hire. I'm gonna email this guy. I'm gonna message him. Hey, I got a gig for you. Are you interested? You're gonna get new clients.
Yep. I think if you're gonna brand yourself, you should be on every platform. Have at least a dozen topics on each one, and you don't have to do it overnight and post a bunch of stuff. You look at any of my stuff, any of you guys' stuff. It's been posted over time and time.
Slow, steady pressure is the best way.
Yeah.
All right. Last question, because you hit me with this one. I thought it was pretty good. Mentorship. I think one of your concerns is it's hard to get people to mentor other people.
Now,
it's not that I disagree with you, but I do feel like the industry is young. We do have a new generation coming in. There's an older generation that's kind of retiring.
Right.
That obviously with their retirement, there's a lot of knowledge that they could pass along. I honestly feel like if there was a forum or a medium or a school or something where people would call upon them and say, hey, so-and-so, would you come in and do a master class on projection? Or would you do a master class on image processing and really come in and talk about the industry?
Yep.
Let's do something like that. When called upon, I think almost anybody would do it. It's just right now I don't know if they're being called upon. But maybe you have a different take on that. But I know I would be kind of like flattered if someone was like, hey, I want you to talk to me about like what it was like for you as a technician.
Right.
Like pass me some of your knowledge. But nobody's asked me that question.
So
do you feel like they would step up to the plate?
Oh man, it's so crazy you said that. So I feel like you've worded that in a way that I'm not being proactive enough, because I have verbiage that out in AV Educate on the webpage as well. There's actually a whole section about that if you were retired and like want to give out. And if you look at the verbiage on it on the Facebook page, on the rules and settings and stuff like that we have in there, we ask that of the community. I've gotten very little feedback on that, and most people that I do reach out to about it always have some kind of hesitation for it.
I can see an OGAV Facebook page coming, get those guys the spotlight.
I mean, so AV Educate, that's one of the things I wanted to do is, I have guys that I know are retired that could give out so much information, and there'd be no need of that fear of, I don't want to train myself out of a job because these guys are already retired. And a lot of times I get is the technology is too advanced for me now, or I don't want to be involved and give anybody bad information, or I don't want to be held accountable for something I said on social media. And it's like,
well, there's a point to that. Like if you sit still. I mean, I think projection is one of the few professions in live events, other than camera as well.
Right.
Whereas if you stop for a while, and let's say you stop for 10 years and you came back to it, a camera is still a camera and a projector is still a projector.
Right.
It's just the physics of it are the same. It's just learning the menu structure.
Right.
For me to go on ShowSite now and try to mentor people, like I could talk about live events and why I'm passionate about it, but for me to talk to like people that are using E2s and using this technology that wasn't around when I was, I'd be kind of lost in the playground. I wouldn't know where to start. I would feel very antiquated very quickly.
Yeah, but
if I was picking up that projector remote again, it's like, okay, this is pretty close to where I left off 8 years ago. It's not the same, but like things are kind of in the same place.
But you'd have the imagination for it. You might even.
I was never good at projection, so.
Well, what I'm saying, you might not be able to control it anymore. But hey, I know that this needs to happen for this to work, or like, I know that this. I know that this can do these things.
The process is the same. The technology is different, but the processes and the steps are still the same.
Yeah, and with the media server, even with all three of them, and like I said, they have the pros and cons. They all do this almost the same functionality. Just real quick, if I can touch on it.
Yeah.
Spider, the biggest drawback to the Spider is that with the E2 and the Ascender offer is that it's speed. They come preset with functions for you to speed up your process. Spider, you got to build everything, every single queue, your preview window, your program window, your all that's got to be done from scratch. So but the advantage is I have an X80. I have tons of pixels I can use to do whatever I want. You just gave me a
great idea for podcasts, because there are like, and this has been this way for a long time. Right. There's like the barcode image processing guys and gals, and then there's the Christie/Vista side, and a lot of times they don't mix.
Right.
It's just kind of like two separate camps and two separate ways of thinking. That would be an interesting podcast.
I've learned all three.
Convince me why Barco is better than Christie or vice versa.
I think they have their pros and cons.
I know which one I prefer, but I'll keep that a secret.
I know what I prefer.
It shouldn't be that big of a secret, but
I know what I prefer, and it's not that one.
All right, well, we'll keep that between us, right? Before we wrap up, anything you want to throw out there?
No, thanks for having me.
How can people get
a
hold of you?
Just reach me on AV Educate. I'm pretty open about who I am. Omar Colom. Reach out to me. I'm always talking to people about everything I can and whatever I can. I'm always trying to, collaborate with anybody I can about anything, just to give back to the community. So, I'm always available 24/7.
Well, my friend, thanks you for your service. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate having you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.